Welcome to the AI First Business Podcast with Tina Yazdi, where we show you how companies, teams, and leaders are turning AI hype into ROI. Welcome. So we've met a few times, and I've been really curious to dig into what you're building at Reveal My Food. Before we get into that, can you introduce us to a little bit about who you are, a little bit maybe about your background, and a quick preview of your journey to Reveal My Food?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me here as well. So I would like to start saying that I was made in Italy. So all the journey that led me to found Reveal My Food is rooted in how food permeates the Italian culture. And I have a deep fascination around human behavior and how effectively these shapes our health, our mindset, and our trajectory of life. About me, I studied biotechnology, and then after studying genetics and effectively understanding how powerful our habits and our everyday routines are, I dived into public health and nutrition and then clinical dietetics. And the whole fascination just got wider and wider the moment in which I intertwine AI into something that is so vital and so universal as the language of food. So that's me.
I have a question on that we actually haven't spoken about yet. You mentioned the entry point of your relationship with food through the lens of being Italian, and then additionally, I don't know, separately, through genetics and the entrenchment of human habits. What is your view on the relationship with food in culture versus like personal habits? Like how intertwined are those two and how separate are they in informing how we think of food?
So, I don't think we can fully separate them. I think it's important to understand how we build our food preferences. Culture, it's something that shapes our view around food. We both come from countries and cultures that are deeply rooted in food as a medicine, as a way to gather people together, as a way to show affection and care. And this is the way in which we likely build up to today, likely in the future, our interaction with the external world and our friendships and our way of exploring the world. So going back to your question, the intertwine between culture and our way of eating and looking at food is something that is very much connected and very difficult to separate, to the point that you can see some of these also being mirrored in the way in which governments talk about public health, where food stands, how developed is the food system. Let's go back because I think it's going to provide a lot of context and answer even more your question is, what is something that everybody understands? Is the first thing that we do when we come to this amazing world, and is likely one of the last things that we do when we depart. So food is something that permeates our daily routines at least 2 to 3 times a day for all our life. So when we talk about culture, we talk about safety, we talk about personal preference, we talk about availability, we talk about climate, and so on and so forth. So yes, culture and preferences are very intertwined and are shaped by a lot of different touch points across our lifespan.
What I love about what you just shared is we're going to get into Reveal My Food and your journey to that in a second, but I am Iranian, as you alluded to. So Iranian culture is very centered around food for sure. But I spent many years doing like if it fits your macros, going through the whole shabam of whatever the current point of view is on the best way to eat. And in all of that, what was kind of implicitly communicated was like, it's easy to figure out food. It's just that like you've overcomplicated it. And it never regarded culture or the importance of that. And in fact, it almost like criticized that, if I were to say it, like it almost felt like culture was pointed to as fossilizing bad ways of eating that us as a species should never have adopted. I'm curious, what was your pathway like from like your visceral personal experience as an Italian and that, lens through which you were introduced to it? What made you curious about the public health angle? And what were some of the problems that you started to notice, maybe within Europe or globally, that kind of led you to what you're working on now?
Yes, absolutely. So just to touch on what you mentioned around changing your food habits and following different diets, the question that I would like you to reflect upon is how long could you stick with them?
Yeah.
And how difficult the journey to stick to them was to give up on your cultural roots. The only way to change a lifestyle, the only way to adapt to a new dietary pattern, which in certain cases is essential. Let's think about what we call the Western diet. At the moment, the UK consume 70% of their diet from ultra-processed food. So at this point, changing your diet is a survival necessity. It's not anymore like to have or an optimization. The only way to achieve that is to insert in the discussion of transitioning towards a new diet, a new lifestyle, culture, upbringing, fundamental habits that have been taught upon you by the society and your upbringing in order to bridge you to the new set of habits that will be the new routine. So framing diet in terms of culture, how to insert a diet, a ketogenic diet or paleo or there are many, into your cultural habits, into your cooking skill, into your ingredients preferences is the key to successful long-term endurance, I would say. What brought me to this journey of being obsessed with how we interact with food and how we choose food and how we appreciate food has been a set of different things. First of all, I was made in Italy. My granddad is a head chef and my mom suffered from food allergies. So if we think about food as a language, the language spoken in my family was quite complex. And university for me was the key to understand how nutrition can be a systemic way to empower the society to arise, to live longer, to be more efficient, to be more productive, to respect themselves more. So I always look at that as if I have to have an impact on the society, what are the pillars that I can influence and therefore reach as many people as possible? And the answer to that I gave myself, and therefore why Review My Food, was I could focus on sleep, I could focus on psychology, and so how we actually interconnect with other people, or food. Those are the essential three pillars that AI could not change, could not replace, and we are absolutely not fully knowledgeable about. And so I was like, let me go there.
And just before we get into, I have one more. What I think is really revolutionary and what immediately caught my attention when we started talking about this over the last couple of months is, again, this might just be my experience, but when people talk about food and our relationship with food, it's usually framed as super individualistically. And a very like personal thing. You and your relationship with food, it's like a one-to-one. If you have an issue with it, it's your fault. Like I didn't realize it until you started framing it like this, is how did you see the society-wide opportunity? Like the lens that you're looking at it feels such the opposite way of what I grew up with in the 90s and 2000s. As like, it's like it's your problem, you figure it out. If it's going well, it's thanks to yourself. And you're looking at it from a cultural perspective, a societal perspective.
Yes.
And as a tool to uplift people, not for their personal journeys necessarily only, but what was there like something that you read or studied or saw that made you come to that way of thinking, or where did that come from?
So let's frame it first. The relationship that you have with food is individualistic because you are the one putting that piece of external world inside yourself in order to either nourish yourself or suiting yourself or, feeling empowered. There is a lot of hedonistic nuances in our relationship with food. So the relationship is individualistic and that should be empowering in the sense that if we look at that in terms of what is the first things that we can do in order to improve our trajectory of life. And food is something, as we said and agreed upon, is something that permeates our life at least 2 to 3 times a day for all our lifespan. And so it's something that we can intervene upon quite quickly, not easily, but quite quickly. the wider aspect that we need to consider is that we believe that we're free in the choices that we're making today around food. And that these empower us to understand that actually we are hugely nudged in a certain direction of choice based on the food environment that surrounds us. To give an example, we are in London today, and the UK food environment is called obesogenic. He's not the only one. But
what does that mean?
Obesogenic means that the food cues that are in the food environment are more likely to get the population to gain weight rather than reduce it, maintain it, and then being able to optimize the quality of diet. So I loved this example about food. Give an example of okay.
Yeah. Examples are good.
So if I mention right now Coca-Cola, the first thing that should come into your mind is the pop of the aluminum can in your hands.
I'm actually thinking of the polar bear.
Okay.
But yeah.
But it's the feeling, you can hear the drop of the Coca-Cola in the glass with the bubbles.
Now that you're describing it, it's coming to me.
Okay. Another one is Magnum. The thing that should come into your mind is the crack of the chocolate when you bite it.
I eat a lot more Magnum than I drink Coca-Cola, so that one was closer to me.
Now, I want all of you to and it can be anything. If I say, somebody say, and in your mind, you're going to have the name of Just Eat. So all these are ingrained cues in our brain that lead us to actually go to the supermarket and buy a certain type of food. If I say celery, none of you will have an epiphany. None of you will have an amazing memory about biting into a celery stick. And so it's an obesogenic food environment means that what has been nudged into your food choices, rather than being something that helps you to be healthier, is something that drives you towards being more unhealthy or more dependent towards sugars and fat and ultra processed foods. So obesogenic food environment and just to connect all the dots. So the relationship with food is individualistic in the sense that you are the one choosing to walk to the supermarket and buy that specific ingredient, specific food. Yet, if you are stressed and or you are feeling festive, the first things you do likely is to go for something that is push in front of your eyes, and that usually is the less healthy food, and it's also easier. It requires less time to be prepared and is readily available. That is how we make people struggle to manage their weight and their health long term.
So made in Italy, you grew up in this interesting family environment as it comes to food, with your mom having allergies and your grandpa being a head chef. You study nutrition from several angles: public health, clinical, dietetics, and all of this culminates into what you're working on at the moment, which is Reveal My Food.
Correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about what was the process honing in on this specific problem space? What is the problem space? And what does Reveal My Food do?
Yeah. So the problem is that we are trying to tackle is the food environment. I spent a decade in public health designing intervention to prevent obesity or manage obesity in the adult population.
Is this in Italy?
Here in the UK and partially also in Italy, the education is not enough. Education is not enough because every single day you walk outside your household or every time you turn on the television, food comes to you in the form that is shaped by the society around you.
Right.
And
why is education not enough to counteract that, if that's not in your best interest?
You know, like I always say, I'm sure it has happened to you. A new song pop-ups at the radio. You listen that the first time and it's like, I like it. And then a month into that, you are the only person still talking about that song because you love that so much. Repetition builds familiarity, which builds trust, which builds how we go about decisions. Right. So education, first of all, we don't educate people about being aware what they eat, why they eat in a certain way, and how to go about collecting data.
How do we educate people on food? Let's take the UK as an example, since that's what you refer to.
So usually is a 12 weeks course, the standard way of public health of approaching
So
that.
this is not even like at the national school level, where I'm assuming there's very little educating being done around food. This is like someone who's chosen to study.
Yes, and Jamie Oliver did an amazing campaign named Feeding the Future, because there is a program called Breakfast Clubs in the UK schools. So we're talking about primary and secondary schools. And what they were giving kids is cereal with sugar. And what they were aiming to do, which is very good, is preventing kids that didn't have breakfast to struggle even further in their educational journey. And so this was a very nice, recreative way of supporting the community through food. But because the food culture has not been primed to understand the long-term effect of feeding kids sugar and processed carbs first thing in the morning, we thought that that was the best choice. Now we're changing it. We're talking about school meals in a completely different way. So really we are building the net of the health culture through food, because fundamentally what we're saying is maybe we can actually intervene every single day, and maybe we can prevent long-term diseases, and maybe this is going to have a benefit in terms of the pressure on NHS and public health systems. So it's a generational shift. Going back to your question, Public Health England, the UK government, the way in which the gold standard of public health intervention is usually a 12 weeks course, and you have people referred by their GPs coming into different programs. Is structured in 12 weeks. During those 12 weeks is 12 hours.
And you did this program as well.
Yeah. And we implemented some new, we upgraded some of the structures because everybody could come in the 12 weeks program, but we need to understand level of readiness. We need to understand, is the person willingness to change match with the follow-through actions? And unless you really spend time doing the data collection at the beginning, what drove this person to actually take the call to be enrolled?
This is in a study under the program.
This is basically how we study the effectiveness of these programs.
So you put together surveys and research groups and things like that.
Yeah. And so we try to educate people, but I can preach to you all day that you need to eat your 5 a day. If I don't put that in the context of your routine, if I don't make you aware of why you've been eating in a certain way all your life, I'm preaching to the void because there is no understanding. There is no context.
So going back to Reveal My Food, so education, even when it is being done, is not sufficient to break through the willpower override needed to cut through the culture around what most people find themselves in the environment of. You notice this, you're taking this course, and what kind of pathway did that lead you on?
So the way in which I arrived to land to the idea of Reveal My Food.
And if you can then get into like what Reveal My Food does as well.
Yeah, absolutely. As I've been talking about for a bit now, education is not enough because the marketing that is spent to promote certain food is very strong. And so you need to imagine that we have built diet culture around willpower. Willpower, as humans, we have very little willpower, not because it's, we were stingy in giving willpower to people, but because willpower needs to fight behaviors and habits in order to have florid ground to stick on. So Reveal My Food and my journey. Reveal My Food is the aftermath of seeing how education is not enough. The food environment is composed by many different aspects. And effectively, we're moving from a physical food environment to a digital food environment. And so Reveal My Food is my answer. Physical food environment is walking into the supermarket to buy the food, okay? And that has been, or going to the restaurant to have a meal. We have shifted completely, that paradigm has been shifting for the past 7 to 10 years, and COVID was a pivotal moment for the formation of the market of new ways to purchase food. So if we think about that, we order takeaways nowadays. Before you would call the takeaway and walk downstairs to actually pick up the takeaway. Now you order that and it's delivered at your doorstep. Same happens with groceries or food boxes. Odd Boxes done an amazing job to really bring back the idea of yes, absolutely. The beauty of variety, and everything is delivered at our doorstep. So that creates double sore scenario. The first one, the negative one, the obesogenic one, is that it's so much easier to get access to whatever you want.
And as we discussed, you're being manipulated to want things that are not in your best interest.
Constantly. I was taking the underground this morning to come here, and a very famous and prominent beer brand has now changed the technology on the can so you can identify how cold is the beer that you're about to drink because the mountains turns blue.
To be fair, Coors Light has been doing that for like about 10 years.
Really?
But it was a Coors Light.
Yeah, it is Coors Light.
Yeah, no, it was a thing it was a big campaign in Canada.
Okay.
It took them long enough to bring it out.
It just arrived here.
Yeah.
And I was shocked because I was like, wow, so we're not talking even about the taste of the Coors Light anymore.
Sorry, I'll take this out. It's a cheap beer.
The way in which we are manipulating the food is through a lot of technological advancement. So going back to the food environment and moving from physical to digital, what has happened is that if we were cozy on a sofa 10 years ago, for us to actually put some clothes on and go to the supermarket to grab an ice cream would take a lot of reasoning, right? Unless you really want that, you would skip it. And so that's a way to actually help people to frame why am I eating? Is that because I'm really hungry, so anything that is in my pantry is okay? Or is just a pleasurable experience, and so I need to put effort in order to reach the food? Nowadays is a few tap away.
So just let's step back for a second. Can you give us the pitch on what is Reveal My Food? What does it do?
Yes.
Who are the customers, and what's the problem that it's solving?
Absolutely. Reveal My Food is a personalized nutrition food ordering system that aims to shape the digital food environment around the individual needs. And the way in which we started tackling the problem of the food environment and the digital food environment opportunity effectively is through companies, and especially companies that provide food catering for their employees. The few principles why Reveal My Food started is that we spend 75% of our waking time working, and we do that for at least 25 years of our life. And so at that point, at the moment, what we're doing is trading our time for money, and we're completely ranking the importance of health because we need to make more money. And what I'm trying to shift with Reveal My Food is the idea of actually I can go to work every day and work on my health because my employer at work. And instead of that being a detriment, because we are still making a decision there, and the chocolate is always...
Like you have to take an entire night to meal prep so you can go out that,
And instead imagine the food served at the canteen being positioned in such a way that helps you to make the optimal choice at every meal you consume. When you walk out of that company 25 years from now, you're going to be a jewel. You're going to be amazing, right? You're going to be the person that goes for a run in their 70s. And so I want to enable that. Our mission is to bring 100 million years and good health back to humanity.
That, getting into like the AI and technology aspect for a second. I mean, the number of things you mentioned that feed into a single decision someone's making about a single meal is overwhelming. Your culture, your history, your upbringing, your food environment, the level of education you have about food. Obviously, the information is out there for someone who's motivated, but still, like, I've often struggled to make the right decisions or, what was the role of what AI enables you to do in unlocking what you're doing with Reveal My Food? Would this have been possible maybe like 5 years ago? We've had apps that track our food. Now you have a skill, you put your food, it like automatically calculates the macros. Like more information, can it help at all? Unique delta does the technology that you're seeing unlock for people that never has been kind of tapped into before, given people struggle with the decisions?
So I usually say that we design a lot of apps for people that are the 1% of the population, highly analytical, the people that are very good at sticking to habits. And yet we have not created actually technology for the general population. I think that's the gap that is not happening. So you were mentioning about a lot of different information being available. First of all, it's overwhelming. You mentioned 2 diets since we have been speaking, actually 3, because we talk also about the cultural type of diet and that we bring it into our decision process. So the principle is that everybody is an expert and everybody has discovered a new holy grail.
Contradict each other.
Absolutely.
Very usefully.
So when you have a scale that weighs your macros, is actually not telling you what is the relationship that you have with food.
I don't have such a scale. I've just seen them.
Yeah, no.
But I don't actually. Just for the record.
Okay. Let us know how it goes once you buy one. If
I can't be bothered.
Okay, that's what we're talking about. So we have more information, but those information, do they fit in our routine? And I think AI, what is enabling us is to revert engineer how we go about health.
Yeah.
At the moment is an intervention kind of reactive approach. Is you have a problem, so you ditch everything that you've been doing for 10, 15 years. And now you jump into these 75 days challenge.
It's almost like a religious experience, right? Like it's like a punitive, sacrificial, like pilgrimage.
Yes.
Which I think can be, what's the word?
This is not the only way.
Yeah, but you feel that way. And if you're not motivated or you feel like it's too much or it's not worth the sacrifice.
Yes, the reason why crash diets are so successful is because they basically convince you that you can go through hell and completely give up all your habits.
And then you're redeemed.
And then you're going to be fine. And nobody talks about the fact that if you are in a certain position today, is because your habits, you have a set of habits that led you to be there. So the first things that we need to do is look at those habits.
Yeah.
Are you skipping breakfast? Do you eat breakfast?
Yeah.
Do you enjoy vegetables? Have you been looking at food as something that nourish you? Where are your cooking skill at? So the way in which AI is, I believe, and I mean, the information that we have is nudging us to see as the new frontier of AI in nutrition comes to being able to nudge people to stick to new habits long enough for them to actually become settled habits. It enables people to collect them and more information that are actually helpful to support them when they derail or when life happens. And so it's enabling us to help the journey. So it's not about having more information, it's about acting upon those information in a personalized way. It's about understanding why do we get ice cream every 3 weeks on a Friday night?
What data sources are you using? How is it triaging information? How is it nudging people just in time to make the right decision for that?
Yes, absolutely.
How does this all...
So the way in which we do that is we have created a technology for employees. So Reveal My Food at the moment focus predominantly on office spaces that have a staff canteen. The reason for that is it's a low emotional decision. You are not paying a lot of money for that. You're not going there to have a nice 5 stars, a Michelin star meal. You're going there because you're hungry and you need energy.
Utilitarian.
Absolutely. So because there is a low emotional engagement with that decision, it's easier for the employee to actually accept a nudge. So Reveal My Food, basically what it does is enables you to see the menu from the staff canteen every single day. But instead of having all the options, you have only the options that fit what with your preferences, very important, your health needs, and your actual reality.
Yep.
What did you eat before? And therefore, what is missing in your nutritional intake?
Yeah, and is this just two questions? Is it just looking at what you're eating at work? And what are the goals based on? Is it self-defined? Do you do like an analysis and give suggestions?
So it is focused at the moment only on the food that you eat at work. But let's frame that. We spend 75% of our waking time at work. So basically, I have the possibility of influencing 75% of your food decisions. And we have an health assessment that is open for everybody if anybody wants to try that, that enable us to accurately derive what is the quality of your overall diet, nutritional intake and food groups intake, and any gaps. So that helps us to inform the baseline. And the beauty of working in the workspaces is that we are animal of habits, which means that every week we go to the, or every month we have a certain pattern of attendance of the office, and that enable the AI to actually tailor the nudging to your routine. And so instead of feeling something that you need to adapt to, is adapted to you.
We are people of, habit. Humans are creatures of habit, but everyone's routine also changes from week to week. Yeah. How does that all come together?
So you need to...
And do you need your notifications turned on to be able to benefit from it?
Yeah, that's a very good point. So let's start with, so everything that you said is the barrier of streamline nutrition technologies adoption. The way in which we, each of these pillars is, first of all, we enable employees to skip the queue, see what is available. So imagine about food allergies, lifestyle, dietary requirements, health-shaped diets. At the moment, you have zero visibility. You need to walk to the staff canteen, you need to queue, and obviously nobody's stressed nowadays. So you need to queue, you have no visibility on what is available, and
to be honest, like I can say at my workplace, if it's like vegan or not, and that's about it. Like I don't know what the ingredients are.
Is a huge problem and a huge missed opportunity. So what we do is that we unlock that visibility in terms of what is available. The first things that we do is that we empower caterings to really communicate the full value of the food that they are serving.
And you're not doing the catering, you work with caterers.
We work with caterings.
It's like an overlay.
Yes, it is. We are the partner, the technological partner of caterings to transform companies in Vitality apps. We come in, we analyze your food offer, we increase by approximately 89% the data point, what you're already serving. So we're not changing what you're doing, we are optimizing the information around that. In this case, knowledge is power, because what our technology does next is delivering personalization to you based on what they're serving. The personalization comes from data collection. The way in which we do data collection is by processing the payment. So because I acquire the information from the catering, I know what they're serving to you. I now know when and how often you order and what is your preference in terms of the food that is available. And I start collecting a lot of information around your consumption pattern. And so in practicality, what happens is that as for any Google search in which we have the perception of 5 pages that we can choose from, fundamentally we choose from the first page and very likely from the first 2 pages that are listed.
Yeah.
So we apply a similar behavior, and what we do is we position the options that are ideal for you. We tailor the menu option based on Tina, based on what you have chosen in the past, based on your age, your gender, your background as well, because obviously different cultures have different health risks that are associated with their upbringing, culture, food culture as well. And then we enable you every single day to have the benefit of ordering digitally. So you skip the queue, you have visibility on what is available, you can pre-order. So if you have meetings that you need to juggle, you know that you can pick up your food as soon as the canteen opens. So the technology works around you, your individuality, your routine, your calendar. And at the same time is the value that drives these technologies to keep you alive. I want everybody to be 70 and go to a rave, okay? Maybe not everybody, depends if you enjoy that. But the principle is having the energy to live every single day of your life feeling empowered, feeling capable. And food is a huge strata that enables that. So Reveal My Food builds that health journey every single day you go to work.
And what's unique about the technology today? Is there some capability that you had access to at the time with which you so happened to start building this that allowed you to do something you otherwise wouldn't have been able to do? And if so, what is that?
Yeah, okay. So technology has evolved massively, and the society is now much more ready to accept AI in everyday endeavors. So if I had the capacity to go back in time and actually Reveal My Food, I think I would still approach the building of the technology, the building of the AI with the idea of human behavior first. And so that has been our way of designing models. And I think is where the new generation of AI is going. We have created an incredible opportunity for AI to change the trajectory of humanity for good. I think we are very junior in the way in which we are adopting AI. The first things that comes to mind is, LLM model, ChatGPT, whatever. But the power of actually AI, it enables us so compared to 5 years ago, readiness of adoption of technology first has enabled us to capture data more granularly. And the difference in the way in which we are now using data has been shaped by where AI can drive us. Think about personalized supplements. A lot of what we call personalized nutrition has very little scientific knowledge because it's very hard to map the diet of the whole nation, right? So what Reveal My Food technology has been enabled to do through AI today is by being built around behavior, being able to collect the biggest database of consecutive consumption data that is taken from and shared with a population representative sample, which means that what we are now able to do with AI is to see why if I eat broccoli and Tina eats broccoli, we will have two very different health trajectory in the long term. So we're going to be able to finally understand not only which diets are the most efficient for who, but also when those diets needs to be readapted and reshaped based on how our hormones change, our speed of aging is changing, our environment and seasonality is changing. So the AI today that we have available, because it's so heavily used by different technology, enable us to connect different dots that 5 years ago would have not been possible to do.
Thank you so much. Thanks for listening. If you've gained value from this episode, please drop us a 5-star rating on Spotify or a like on YouTube. See you for the next one.